Welcome to Sunshine Cathedral's Queer God Squad. It's Thursday, March 26th, 2026. I am Bishop Darrell Watkins, the Senior Minister of the Sunshine Cathedral. With me today are the Reverend Dr. Ann Atwell and Reverend Kevin Tisdall. We are the Queer God Squad. Visit sunshinecathedral.org to learn more about us. Queer God Squad was created by Hotspots Happening Out to support our mission to explore the value of faith in the LGBTQ community. There's no streaming TV show like this in the entire world.
In 2026, we are celebrating the 41st anniversary of Hotspots magazine, with Queer News Tonight sharing over 11,000 stories and 11 million views so far. We are the largest nonprofit LGBTQ media organization in America, and we encourage you to support our mission to inform, entertain, and educate our community and allies. This is the Sunshine Cathedral perspective. Transfeminine teacher feels she must leave Florida. The Advocate reports that a transgender teacher says she must leave Florida because state laws mean she can't even defend herself in the classroom. Saoirse Stone, a 32-year-old high school English teacher in Orlando, says new restrictions mean she cannot use pronouns that match her gender identity and must stay silent if students deliberately misgender her. If we were to correct them, she says, her teaching credential might be revoked. And I'm quoting her, "I can't even stand up for myself," she said. The Florida laws were introduced under Governor Ron DeSantis, including the controversial Parental Rights in Education Act, which restricts how sexual orientation and gender identity can be discussed in schools. Stone, who began transitioning in 2022, says she now constantly has to self-police what she says in class out of fear it could cost her job. She says she loves teaching, but is afraid she won't be able to continue in Florida. So she and her wife have decided to move to Maryland, where stronger protections for trans people exist. Stone said, and I'm quoting her, "I've already come out. I can't go back into the closet," end quote. And she shouldn't have to.
Yay!
And she shouldn't have to. And I'll tell you what, the state of Florida struggles to get good teachers anyways. They really do. The pay for teachers down here is abysmal, and good quality, highly educated teachers are really hard to come by in the state of Florida. Our governor has said Florida is where woke comes to die. Apparently, it's also where intellect comes to die.
Yeah. Synonymous.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's such a hard job.
Yeah.
Because not only are there the hours you spend in the classroom, then there are the hours at home that you prepare for what you're going to do in the classroom. And then there's all the extra other things, the playground duty or the bus duty or the study halls or the tutoring, the after school. I mean, it's all of that. Mm-hmm. And then, you get the summer off, unless you teach summer school, but you don't get paid while you're off. Yeah. Now you can get your paid your 9 months of pay spread over 12 months so that you always have some flow, but you're not paid for those months you don't work. It's a tough gig. And then not just anybody can do it. You have to have a college degree in your field. You have to have a teaching certificate. You have to, and some states require a master's degree. Mm-hmm. And some states require a bachelor's degree or even a teaching certificate to be a sub. I mean, so there's all these levels of education required to even be a teacher. And then the pay is usually not amazing. Mm-hmm. So if you have loans or whatever, it's going to take you years to pay them off. But you had to get the loans to have the education required to get the job. And so it's a tough gig anyway. Mm-hmm. And then to come after you personally because of who you are as a person, I don't blame people for saying that it's not worth it. It's not worth it. Mm-hmm. And which means then we lose, there's a brain drain.
Yes.
Yep.
Every time people go, that's one less qualified good person in our midst. And it's not just going to be teaching, it's going to be police, it's going to be nurses, and nurses are more important than ever because there's a shortage of doctors. Yep. So nurses and nurse practitioners and physician assistants, they are like saving the medical system right now. If we lose them, we are in super much trouble. I mean, so just more and more and more because, and people who are taking their kids. We know people who have moved because they didn't want their kids in a don't say gay school situation.
Right.
And so, we're not doing ourselves any favor by being mean to people because we don't understand their gender or sexuality or who cares? You don't have to understand.
It's none of our business.
This is a person who is a qualified teacher doing her job. And it's unfair. And what they're doing, what Florida's doing in a lot of so-called red states, and one party in particular, although there's some people, from all over who are wrong.
True. Yep.
But they're trying to create a second-class citizenry. like an apartheid situation. Like there's the real citizens, but then there's the other people that we let live here, and we let them vote maybe, but they're not the same. They're all pigs are equal, but some pigs are more equal. Animal Farm.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yep.
All pigs are equal, but some pigs are more equal, and that's what they're trying to tell us. They're trying to have a special class of more equal, and it's not the trans, it's not the queer, it's not the BIPOC, it's not the non-European immigrant. We've been warned. We've been reading our literature for years, history and literature and philosophy, and we should be prepared for this, prepared to fight back. And if you're not, get prepared.
Yep.
Time is now.
We have met the enemy, and they is us. I ask the question at this table as often as I can. Those who oppose equity, those who oppose diversity, those who oppose inclusiveness, what in the heck are they afraid of? Are they really going to believe that if we insulate our brethren, our children, from the rest of the world, somehow or another they're going to be better off? I don't understand that logic. That logic would lead people to being as monolithic as possible. And that's not what society is about. That's not what we're about. So I ask, what are they afraid of? And then I look at what, especially in my beautiful state of Florida, that's going on is, what are they hiding? What is their goal? And why do you have to constantly, the other question I always ask is, why do you constantly have to have a boogeyman? Why is there always somebody or something that you have to rail against to take your mind away from what's going on in the rest of your world? We see it on the local level, we see it on the state level, and if you don't see it on the national level, you haven't been watching the news over the last month or so. So what are you afraid of? You're afraid of people being treated decently. Who is your boogeyman right now? I guess for too much of Florida and a lot of America, it is our transgender family. And that means that we have to do as much as we can to ensure that that population, our sisters, brothers, and however they are identified by themselves, they get to identify who they are.
You know who you are.
Whoever they are, however they identify as, we have to make sure that they are protected. And that is the one job that we have that we cannot abdicate.
This is the 97th verse of this song that I'm always singing. I think what people are afraid of is their own history. That they don't want to face this, that this country was not settled, it was stolen.
Yes.
This land was not settled. People were already living here. They already had societies. They already had commerce. This was the land was their land.
Yep.
And so they weren't settled. The land wasn't settled, it was conquered. And so that's not a pretty scene, but okay, everyone messes up once in a while. So that was that one thing, and maybe we're sorry. But then from the first, women didn't get to even have a say in anything. And then from almost the first, there were enslaved people. And so a lot of the generational wealth that people enjoy now exist because 150 years ago, people were working for free.
Yep.
And so, so the person who was having them work for free got all the money, and now that's how they amassed a fortune, living off other people's pain and labor. And we don't want to face that. And we don't want to face how we treated Chinese people, exploiting them to build railroads. And we don't want to face how we treated Japanese American citizens. And we're almost there right now with not Japanese people, but with other kinds of people, how we treated Japanese Americans, citizens, because their parents or grandparents were from a country that we happen to be at war with. But they left that country. They didn't want to be part of that country anymore. They wanted to be part of this country. And they were criminalized for their ancestry. We don't face that. We don't want to face that we're the only country in the world to have ever used nuclear weaponry in war. We don't want to talk about the times, the governments that we have helped overthrow through the CIA or through funding revolutionaries, or more recently, just from snatching a president out of his house and out of his country. Or the countries that we have bombed without any provocation, it's like Iran, during peace talks, during diplomatic efforts to just spit in the face of all that and bomb a country that has not been aggressive toward us in this case. And so that's our history. That there were sodomy laws on the books until the late 90s. Marriage equality is only 10 years old, almost 11 years old, and they're trying to revoke it. What did Roe enjoy? 40 years, 50 years and then they took it back. How it took until the 60s to have civil rights legislation, and a lot of that has now been gutted. I mean, our history is a history of othering. Our history is a history of dominance. Our history is a history of white supremacy and male dominance and xenophobia, and that's who we are. And but when you say it, we get defensive. That sounds ugly. I don't want to be ugly, but I also don't want to atone for any of that or change any of that.
Hello.
And that's, I think, what people are afraid of facing. They're afraid of looking in the mirror and seeing who we are and who our grandparents were and who their grandparents were and who their grandparents were. This is our legacy. Now, yeah, we've done some good things. Yeah, we've had some scientists and we've had people who fought to overcome some of those injustices, and it worked for a while. Now we're trying to undo some of the progress. But there are freer countries. There are countries where you get to be who you are. There are countries where, and if who you are gets sick, you can be treated. You don't have to mortgage your house to stay alive. There are countries where if you have the intellect and have demonstrated the ability to do the work, you get an education. I mean, so now they pay more taxes. They do. You got to pay for it, but you get what you pay for. You get good stuff. And there's not a country on record who ever embraced universal health care and later decided to give it up.
Amen.
Not one.
Surprise.
And so I think that's what people are afraid of, that we have this myth that we are the best. And if you want to really look honestly, we are not the most moral. And right now, we're not the most effective. We're not number one in much of anything. And so that's a hard, long look to take at yourself and your country and your heritage, especially since you've been saying since day one, everyone wants to come here. We're the shining city on a hill, Our Lady with the torch. But then when they get here, we want to keep them out. So it's just a strange and unfortunate history. And until we admit it, like, yeah, we've done these things. And this is what we were taught. And this is what people we loved believed. And that was unfortunate. And we want to name that as wrong and make sure that can never happen again. Germany did that after Hitler. They reorganized, they got rid of, there's no Hitler statue in Germany today, and they wanted to make sure that they had to admit that they were a terrible place during the 30s and 40s, and they wanted to not be a terrible place. And so they did the atonement, they did the work, they made the changes. Until we're willing to do that, you're going to have a lot of weak, insecure, jealous people in charge fighting tooth and nail to maintain their privilege, because they can't be honest. And so the only way they can feel good enough is to be in power. And the only way they can be in power is to keep other people down.
Amen.
Amen.
It's been said. And that's today with the Queer God Squad.
Thank you for joining the Queer God Squad today. We are here daily at 3 p.m. to have some fun and to discuss what our LGBTQ community is talking about. Please like and share this and other episodes of the Queer God Squad.
Sunshine Cathedral is the world's leading progressive queer church. Progressive, queer, and God are words that naturally should go together. Remember that we are all in this together, and also remember, you are God's miracle and not God's mistake. Until next time, we are the Queer God Squad.